All team, give it everything you got.
It's time to fangirl flail with Fangirls Going Rogue.
Count me in. I don't think there's anything more important in the Star Wars universe than the fans.
News, discussion, and commentary from the female point of view.
You call this a diplomatic solution?
No, I call it aggressive negotiations.
With your hosts, Teresa Delgado, Trisha Barr, and Sarah Woloski.
Boy, am I glad to hear your voice.
Strap in, because this is where the fun begins.
I like the sound of that.
Hi, Yeb Cubs, and welcome to episode 62 of Fangirls Going Rogue. I am Teresa Delgado, one of your hosts, and with me are my awesome fangirl best friends that I never see in person. At least it feels like a really long time. Sarah Woloski from Skywalking Through Neverland. How's it going over there?
Hey.
On the West Coast?
On the West Coast, and I have a floor in my living room. It's really exciting.
Yay! Well, is your house finished now or not?
It's on its way. You know, we got the whole flooring done, but we still need to put baseboards in and do all that. But it's all painted, and we just need flooring now in the hallway. And then it'll be like, oh wow, there's stuff. But as always, the details take the longest, right?
Mm-hmm. True.
Yeah.
True. And Trisha Barr from Fangirls Going Rogue. Duh. You are here, but you are also from Fangirl Blog. What's going on?
Well, just got back from the World Championship Hunter Rider Horse Show in Washington, D.C., where I finished 8th for the Adult Amateur Challenge. That was all the best adults in the country, so that was kind of fun.
Whoa.
Ooh, way to go.
How many people were you up against?
Well, there's thousands that compete to get there, but there's 24 that made it.
Wow.
And we finished 8th, so I was really proud of Big Girls Don't Cry. And it was a fun weekend. I have to say, though, that her favorite class is the Victory Gallop because they get a fancy ribbon around their neck. She gets a fancy ribbon on her head. And then she gets to go in the ring, the big scary ring with all her friends and gallop around. So,
So can you tell that the horse that she really enjoys that?
Oh, yeah. When she went in they didn't tell me this, when I walked in the ring, but there's a Jumbotron in this ring and horses usually don't go in indoor rings. And when she saw the Jumbotron 2 years ago, she stood on her hind legs and was like, I don't think so. And then she did go around. And then last year she was pretty good. And then this year her eyes were bugging out of her head, but nobody told me that. And she went in and she was really nervous. I could tell. But then I just gave her a pat and said, Layla, this is going to be great. We're going to do great. And then she did everything I asked her to do. So I thought that was really exciting, to get 2 years with a horse and get to the point where they trust you that, I'm afraid of that Jumbotron. And they have to go, they're herd animals and they have to go in the ring by themselves. So when she got to go in with everybody with the ribbons, 8th place is brown, which there's all these pretty colors. There's pink ribbons, there's fuchsia ribbons, there's these little lilac ribbons. So I called that her chocolate diamond ribbons.
Sure. So really quick, because you mentioned 2 horse names, and I know a little bit about that, but maybe our listeners don't. Can you explain why the horses have 2 names?
Well, yeah, she has her fancy show name, which is Big Girls Don't Cry, and she's named after the Fergie version of the song, and that's her show name. That's her fancy name. And then she has a name that we call her at the barn because Big Girls Don't Cry seems like kind of a mouthful. So we call her Layla, and that is because after Layla Ali, as in I will knock you out if I don't like the way things are going. So she's an opinionated woman, which is fun. And she actually got a massage, and I talked to the masseuse about Star Wars for the whole hour that she got a massage at the competition. So that was fun.
Star Wars shows up everywhere. I love it.
It does. And she told me she's been a fan since she was 5 years old in 1977. So I'm like, there's another fangirl friend from forever.
That's awesome. All right, guys. Well, there's a lot of news, lots of stuff going on. We just had big premieres from several shows this past Sunday and just all kinds of things. So, Trisha, why don't you kick it off for us with this news we got from the Hollywood Reporter?
Do you remember where you guys were when the Kathleen Kennedy was announced as heading Star Wars?
Yeah, I think you and I were talking to each other or something. I don't really remember.
It was Star Wars weekends.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because you and I recorded that.
Yeah, and so it was Star Wars weekends, and I actually met Jason Fry, who's written now a Star Wars movie novelization for The Last Jedi, and Eris Chenoweth. I met them that day, and Teresa and I talked about it, and so here we are. It just came out. She's 3 more years of working on Star Wars, which I know there's a lot of talk about a lot of things. Doesn't surprise me. I feel like there would have to be a really big reason to not let her continue through the saga movies. And this 3-year deal secures that. It was not a formal announcement from StarWars.com or anything, but it was broken by The Hollywood Reporter, essentially on the day that her contract would have run out. So they must have been asking, and somebody finally got an answer. So how did everybody feel?
I'm fine with it. I like Kathleen Kennedy. I do agree with your tweet, though, I believe is what I saw, saying that she has like 3 more years to, prove herself that she values diversity and women and, directing. We've talked about that and things like that. So I'm hoping that maybe this 3-year deal will give her that opportunity. But I did see your tweet and I was like, yep, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy with Kathleen Kennedy at the helm. I do think, she's a producer. She's very much the left brain. She gets things done, and she's very instrumental in that. And what I almost think Lucasfilm needs is like a right brain person at the same level that they can kind of run the company together. Maybe even like Dave Filoni or someone, who sees where the creative trajectory is going, and Kathleen sees where the money and how to achieve the creativity. And that's like a tried and true method that has worked for the Walt Disney Company with Walt Disney and his brother, and a few other companies as well.
So when you say right brain, you mean like a creative type person,
right.
And left brain's kind of like science, money, finances, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, basically making that vision happen.
Absolutely. There's been a lot of discussion. There's a lot of trolls who want Kathleen Kennedy gone. And so that has become sort of the narrative of bigoted people want Kathleen Kennedy gone, and everybody else think, you're either on one side, and Kathleen Kennedy has to say to prove the bigots wrong. I feel like Kathleen Kennedy has proven herself as a successful producer well before Star Wars.
Right.
But I definitely feel like the places Star Wars needs to be shored up in the storytelling. I mean, Bob Iger did an interview the week before this announcement where they announced that they were going to slow down Star Wars. They were going to really try to think about their trajectory. He took a lot of that on his shoulders. He said the buck stops with him. I'm not sure what he's trying to signal with that, but there's some things that could go better. Where they could be if it was there was a person in there who really took control of the storytelling. And I know we hear about the story group and we hear about Kiri Hart, but when you get in the interview with anybody, a writer or a director, somebody who has really big creative control of any of these films, they never acknowledge Kiri Hart. They talk about people in the Brain Trust. They mention other white men's names. Occasionally Kathleen Kennedy comes up. She's not a storyteller. So there's still nothing that suggests that there's this group of varied people in there really driving and thinking about Star Wars. There's still a lot of things she has to do to prove that she hasn't talked about publicly much about Star Wars since being asked about her opinion on directors in Rogue One. If anybody pays attention, she doesn't do interviews that much. But I'm not surprised that they're focusing on television. I feel like we have all talked about that the streaming service is important.
Transitions.
Yeah.
Yes, transitions, a lot of transitions. So then we did find out, speaking of streaming service, that there is some TV news. They are apparently filming or gearing up to. So Teresa, you want to talk about it?
Yes, so they have officially announced that the live action streaming TV show that Jon Favreau is the executive producer on is going to be called The Mandalorian. He released a tweet that said, after the stories of Jango and Boba Fett, another warrior emerges in the Star Wars universe. The Mandalorian is set after the fall of the Empire and before the emergence of the First Order. We follow the travails of a lone gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, far from the authority of the New Republic. I am so excited. I love Mandos. And it doesn't have to be Boba Fett or Jango Fett. You know, one of the cool things about this is because we know Sabine is alive. I'm not saying that it's going to be Sabine because all the pronouns they're using are he, but she could pop up. You never know, which would be really neat. But one of the things I like is they did announce some of the episodic directors. They did say that the series will be written and executive produced by Jon Favreau with Dave Filoni, and directing
awesome.
and he's directing the very first episode. And some of the additional episodic directors include Deborah Chow from Jessica Jones, Rick, some last name I can't say,
Fumawawa.
Fumayu.
Oh, yeah, I totally messed it up too.
Yeah, we're just okay. We apologize. From the show Dope, Bryce Dallas Howard is doing one of them. I am so excited about that. And then,
here it is.
How do you say his name?
I'll say it. Taika Waititi. I actually he directed Thor Ragnarok.
Yes, and
so
I'm so excited for this. Like, it's just yes. So yay, I'm pumped. I'm glad that they announced some of the directors. I'm glad there's some diversity in there as well while I smack my microphone out of excitement. Yay.
Yeah, I agree. And I've seen, well, you know, like Deborah Chow, I'm sorry. You know, I've seen Jessica Jones, Bryce Dallas Howard. I have not seen Soulmates. Have you seen anything else she's directed?
No, but I don't care. She's Ron Howard's daughter, so that's all I care about. And the fact that she's in Jurassic World, so whatever. Like, it makes no difference to me. Dinosaurs, daughter of Ron Howard, like,
it's all good, right?
It's just I don't care.
Well, yeah, and also Taika Waititi, I mean, he is off the wall, and he directs off the wall things like when I saw Thor Ragnarok, I thought, wow, this is like one crazy film. And then I went to the press conference with Taika and I saw why it was so off the wall, because he's off the wall and he has just crazy different ideas. So actually, I'm really excited about what he's going to bring to the table. And then, of course, Dave Filoni finally getting to direct some live action. I mean, these Star Wars Rebels and Star Wars Clone Wars episodes have been so good that you know, we just are really chomping at the bit for him to direct live action. And so I'm excited that he's going to get this chance, even if it is not a feature film. So,
yeah, I mean, for me, I love what Dave does in the animated realm. I'm curious to see how that translates into live action, because I just really don't know how he would be as a live action director. That doesn't mean that it's going to be bad or anything, but I have so much faith in Dave Filoni and what he does that, I mean, it can't be anything but awesome, right? And he loves Mandos. And here's the other thing. We've talked about the Clone Wars coming back, and we know that it's going to be the Siege of Mandalore. Like, Mandalore is everywhere!
That's so cute. I'm so glad you're so excited about this, because for me, when they announced The Mandalorian, I was really happy for, like, Mando mercs and people like you who are super into Mandos and can really get behind this show. For me, I've never been like a Boba Fett fan. I always wondered what the big deal was. And so it's going to take me a little longer to get into it, I think, but I'm sure we'll have some great stories, and I'm definitely willing to give it the benefit of the doubt.
Well, how can you not be into Mandos after Rebels and all the Mando stuff you saw there? I mean, come on. No, so for me, it's not about a Boba Fett thing. It's more of just Mandos look cool and they're BA and they're just like, come at me, bro.
Right.
Like, you know, they're I don't know what would you call them of the galaxy? They're
badass.
They're badasses. They're badasses.
Well, I think it's a clan thing too. Like they stick together. There's a real family sense to them. And I think that's why people really like that. And a lot of like, I've heard tell, from Jeremy Hunt in the Hunt family that the Mando Mercs are just some of the nicest people they've ever met, cause he actually built the outfits for his daughters. Mm-hmm. So yeah. And we've had some friends in the Mando Mercs and they're just really, really nice people. So I really think it's that family thing. So I hope we get to learn more about that.
I'm just looking at this image that they're showing and I'm just like, yeah, you're cool, dude. You're super cool.
So I can see some backpacks and some purses out of those colors, right?
Exactly.
So Trisha, what do you think of The Mandalorian and the announcement?
I'm just excited about the directors.
Okay. Yes, that's what we talked about this year. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it was Filoni, which I'm so excited for him. If there's anybody who deserves a chance at live action, and if you have ever watched him talk about storytelling, visual storytelling, he does a class at Celebration that I know is on YouTube. He knows what he's doing. It's not any different than the animation. It's the same principle. You're just directing people in real time. And then the names came out. So it was like, yay. And there's some positivity in that. Mm-hmm. I'm not a huge Mandalorian fan. So this is not like it's totally flipping my whopper as in something I want to see.
It's flipping my whopper.
Well, I know, and that's why I'm happy for a lot of other people. And it could possibly be a really good story, or it might not. You just don't. It's so hard to say. You just don't know what's happening. I feel a little more comfort that Dave Filoni is setting this up with the first story, and is involved as an executive producer. So I feel like his little mitts are in it, and at least as far as knowing what and how he can push Star Wars, that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm. So speaking of things that are maybe not so positive, we have to talk about it. There's no way to get around talking about it, especially since I was a little vocal on Twitter, and so were you, Trisha. We sort of just lost all filter. So with real life, there are real things happening, and sometimes Star Wars and real life intersects, and
they crash together like an X-wing against a Star Destroyer.
Yeah, literally that's a great analogy. So the voice actress that was playing Leia, or I have no idea, I'm gonna say was out of my pure hope, that was playing Leia in Star Wars Resistance, Rachel Butera. She went a little bit cuckoo on social media, and she did some things where it was just so politically incorrect. If you haven't seen this, I just really briefly, not to get into anything political, but obviously there's been some drama related to the newest Supreme Court justice who was just confirmed. Last name of Kavanaugh, first name can't remember. And he was accused of sexual assault and some other things, and the lady that was accusing him and that testified, she has I guess some sort of issue with her voice, that it's
vocal fry, which women are historically mocked for it, for making it sound emotional, not as compelling or in command. It's the thing that women have, and it's been used to beat them down. So it was surprising to hear another woman mock somebody in the position she was in for using that. Then again, she's from a background maybe of comedy, and
Rachel is from a background.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes.
So let me back it up really quick, Trisha. So the lady that was accusing Judge Kavanaugh has the condition Trisha was talking about, vocal fry, and Rachel Butera decided to film herself making fun of, mocking the voice of this lady who's clearly been through a lot and enough to be on this national stage of criticism, and was mocked by someone who was playing probably one of the most heroic women in film, Princess Leia. And I just don't feel like it was an appropriate thing to do when you're representing that character.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not appropriate to do it.
Period.
I mean, it's a way that women have been mocked systemically for a long time. So it's a form of bullying. It's gendered bullying, no less, that she participated in. And it was on the day that they first showed her voice as Leia, and she did a bang up job in that trailer.
That's
I mean,
right.
It came out that morning, and I don't know if in the excitement or whatever, but I mean, she had a lot of things to be excited for, to talk positively about, and instead she went this direction. You know, I think a lot of people in Star Wars made their opinions known. It's not representative of the legacy of Carrie Fisher,
Right.
who has stood up for her friends who have suffered sexual abuse very famously in many different ways. And I don't think it's really representative of how we want people participating in Star Wars to act.
Right.
No.
Whether or not you believe somebody, particularly the way this is very much a gendered way that women are attacked.
Well, and what's interesting is 2 days before was the Star Wars Resistance Roundtable Press Day, in which Richard and I attended, and the actors there were so excited. This was their first time to be talking about the show and really representing Star Wars and being able to talk about their characters. And had she been at that press day, I don't think she would have done what she did, because she would have realized how important her role is.
You know, and I think that's one of the things I had two tweets. One of them was, you know, this is not how we as women in Star Wars, this is not what we do. And we've said this multiple times. This is why we here on Fangirls Going Rogue, we try to lift up other fangirls and acknowledge other fangirl based podcasts that have come out. And we really try to foster that community, because it's just so important that we are not putting other women down. We need to lift other women up. And I feel like this is just a complete backward step for somebody that's in the position that she's in to say, this is how we act in Star Wars, and it's not. And then I think also, for example, you know, Vanessa Marshall, Tia Sarkar, Ashley Eckstein, I did call them out on Twitter, and I was like, you know, follow their lead, because they know what it's like to be a part of Star Wars. And Sarah, I think you're exactly right. If Rachel had been at that press conference and had seen how passionate like these fans are and what it really means, I'm not sure she would have gone down that route. And, you know, maybe she just didn't understand how important this is.
I think she just didn't think it through when she posted and just wanted to get a laugh, and didn't realize the lasting implications of what she had just done.
All I know is that there are plenty of other women who have voiced Leia that we can turn to if Leia really needs to be a big part of Resistance moving forward.
And what was very lucky was the fact that in the first episode, The Recruit of Star Wars Resistance, we see Leia, but she never speaks.
Yep. I reached out to Sarah, and I'm like, she'd seen it already. And I was like, did she speak? Like, did they take her dialogue out? And no, she didn't speak. So whatever we saw in that trailer, where she sounds spot on to Carrie Fisher, you know, older Carrie Fisher, in the way she voiced Leia. I personally hope that they remove her there. I still don't know why they didn't use one of their tried and true actresses. I know that maybe they like to jump around and spread it around. There are plenty of gracious, beautiful women who embody the spirit of that character. I don't want to see any more from her. I'm not going to boycott the show, but I know for a lot of people, it really soured them on the excitement. And when we talk about women getting, I mean, Carrie's talked about it, how women are treated, how they were treated in the franchise, how she felt about many different things. It's so, just listen. If you listen to her and you listen to what Leia and understood Leia, use that privilege. Don't abuse it.
I agree. And you did bring something up about boycotting the whole show. And I know I did see that about a lot of people saying, oh, well, I'm not going to watch Star Wars Resistance now. I really don't think that we need to take that drastic step. There are a lot of people involved in Star Wars Resistance, not, you know, outside of this one individual. There are tons of other people that are pouring their heart and their souls into the show. And I know I at first was like, well, now my excitement for the show is gone. And I sat there and I had to reflect and think. And I said, you know, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that to the show. I'm not going to punish the show because of one person. I would really like to see them no longer use her and to transition over to someone else and just make that smooth transition. That would be my hope. But I don't think we need to boycott this show because of her. And mainly because, honestly, the first 3 episodes, there is zero Leia other than the image that we see, and the rest of the cast that's doing the show. I know we're going to talk about it in a few minutes, but they deserve to have their show watched.
For every person, it's going to be a personal choice. I mean, if entertainment is something that dredges up negative memories, the implication of what Rachel Butera did is for some people, it is going to be too much. For women who've experienced this type of trauma, I feel for all the people involved, but at the same time, I have to have empathy for the people, for them, that it's a trigger step too far for them.
Of course.
So it's a highly personal choice for everybody. It has to be how you feel. I mean, initially I was like, oh man, I don't even want to watch this, because the whole week was really hard. She did make it really, when Leia popped up on a screen, I thought I was going to hear that voice. My body clenched.
Yeah. You know what? I had the same reaction, Trisha, actually.
Everything in me tightened, and Star Wars is supposed to be out being uplifting and hopeful, and it's supposed to be an escape. So she did affect that, and I'm hoping that when people consider that, there is still plenty of time. There are plenty of women who can do that voice, and they have plenty of time to get that hurt out and not give people that reaction. Right. And I'm sorry if it takes them a little bit of effort.
I think it's a necessary effort. I mean, just today I was editing in the extended trailer with the voice of Rachel Butera. And when I got to that portion and I'm like editing, I did the same thing, Trisha. My body clenched up. I was like, oh, I can't hear that voice now without thinking of what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and Trisha, you're right. Like, not to be disrespectful to anybody, but you're absolutely correct that it is a personal choice. And of course, I've luckily never been in the position that some of these women have been in that are making their voices known right now. I've never had that experience. And so my view on it, is a little bit different, but I can respect the fact that for those women that have, this show may be really hard to watch, especially if they have to watch her voice that character. And it could change, I hope not, but it could change the way that they view Star Wars and Leia. And it's the implications are huge.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, Leia is a symbol that they want to be able to be hopeful to. And, if one of the things that they've used her hope for is to overcome instances of sexual assault, then this could be very uncomfortable for them. And nobody can understand triggers unless you experience them or somebody who goes through that. So I hope we don't ever have to talk about an actor in Star Wars doing something like what she did.
I know. Yeah, this is a really uncomfortable conversation for all of us. Just so our listeners know, we're tiptoeing around it as best as we can while having an opinion. It's really hard.
I mean, I'll be honest. I've had 3 instances in my life where I've had sexual assault things happen to me never of my own choosing. First time in high school when I had a kid reach out my skirt and put his hand where he didn't deserve or wasn't warranted. That was the first time. 2 other instances in my life. You can't do anything. You're walking downstairs. I did turn around and knock him down the stairs.
That's good.
Good job.
But, those are things that you can't ever shake from your existence. I can still remember everything about that moment. So to me, these are very real things.
Yes.
And,
yes.
But to transition to something that Star Wars finally did that I'm very proud of them. Finally.
Big time. Finally. It took forever.
They interviewed Erin Kellerman, who is the actress who played Emphas Nest, who is the one thing that I really liked in Solo. I mean, I liked Alden Ehrenreich and I liked Donald Glover. I liked the actors portraying them. Just the story was just what, but Enfys Nest was like the thing that caught my attention, made me interested, and they just like refused to acknowledge this. Like, we didn't talk to the actress, we didn't talk about the character, we didn't talk about bring her out. You know, I was like, okay, well, it's been a couple weeks, we'll bring out that character to get more people into the theater.
Yeah, I think it's crazy because she wasn't even at the press conference. She didn't do the round table that's on the solo bonus features, you know, and it's all because they wanted that one moment of surprise when she takes off her helmet and you see it's a girl.
I mean, you could have just said she's in the movie. Most people wouldn't have, we would have paid attention. It would have been compelling. The surprise was that she's working for the, you know, the Rebel Alliance or the Proto-Rebel Alliance. Not that she's a woman, not that she's young. I mean, Princess Leia, come on. She was 19. We know what she can do. So none of these things are shocking, right? They're not shock value. But this is an actress who looks like she's an up-and-comer. You know, she's doing some real things beyond Star Wars. And even the way StarWars.com framed it, it's like, oh, there's finally interest in Enfys Nest. I'm like,
whatever.
Hello. Like, have you been watching I mean, there was fan art about Enfys Nest before she even showed up. And I remember everybody talked about it after the movie. And I kept waiting, like, when Star Wars going to acknowledge this? Like, when are they going to do an interview? So, I mean, she's just beautiful. And we get to, you know, she talked a little bit about just the stunt training. It's not like they cast her lightly. She went back 3 times. She talks about not feeling like she did her best first audition. Hey, we're all with you on that, because sometimes the first time you do anything, you don't do it the best you can. And she went back and gave it her all. And then she got to screen test with Alden Ehrenreich. So it's not like they cast the character lightly.
Right. Oh no. And she like completely embodied the character. I mean, some of her auditions were the stunts. So yeah, right. It's like she had to be able to do that and physically embody what Enfys Nest does.
So how do they go through this whole really a detailed process to cast the right person? And then in the process of marketing the movie, she never comes up, and there's never any, all right, so the surprise has been over. It's been 2 weeks. Now we'll bring her out on Entertainment Tonight or something, you know, like, I don't know. It's like the most bizarre. And I hope they were taking their time, because they thought, we're signing this actress for 3 or 4 more movies just in case, because I would put down my money for Enfys Nest movie.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. Absolutely.
She has possibility, and I would have been dragging her out and saying, this lady's awesome.
Well, the one thing I thought about this article was it was too short on StarWars.com.
Yes.
And she needs to be interviewed in a longer format, like on Fangirls Going Rogue.
I know.
Hey.
she's filming Les Miserables, which is like,
amazing. So she sings?
I guess so.
What character?
Eponine?
Yeah. Eponine. I forget what she is, but yes. Okay.
I forget what she is. She's a person, Sarah.
And her name is Anakin. Okay. No, I forget. Okay. Well, speaking of women in media, so let's move on from Enfys Nest to Marvel Rising, which is very exciting. Marvel Rising is basically a TV series, or it's a new animated series, and it's kind of hard to explain because half of it is 21-minute episodes on YouTube. It's Marvel's YouTube, Marvel HQ. And then there is a movie. It's a 80-minute animated film that is now on the Disney Channel. And what it is, it's called Marvel Rising Secret Warriors. And it features this young new group of superheroes, and many of them, majority of them are female, and they're like teenage age, and they learn about their powers and each other and kind of form a team eventually. So you really follow Ms. Marvel and Squirrel Girl. Those are the 2 friends that they've found themselves with superpowers after this Terrigen mist has passed over their neighborhood. And so the other superheroes that they interact with are Inferno, Patriot, America Chavez, and even Captain Marvel. So it's really cool. It's aimed for tweens, but I enjoyed the heck out of this thing.
And the reason really to talk about it is it's comparative to Forces of Destiny in some ways, as an initiative from where they're really looking at trying to tell stories from a female perspective, but they really went more, instead of just trying to do these like 2-minute shorts about character, they dug in and did a movie.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And what I love about it is they actually partnered with the Gina Davis Institute on Gender in Media to create focus groups as they were developing this series. They would have young girls and moms come in and talk about the design of the characters or the story and just help them craft this amazing animated show. And I was actually invited to the red carpet of the premiere for Marvel Rising Secret Warriors, where I was able to talk with the executive producers and some of the voice cast. And this was the same week that we had the Star Wars Resistance press thing. So it was like, whoa, a big week of press stuff. So I just wanted to bring up a few things. And one is that Court Lane, he is the executive producer of the show, but he's also the senior vice president of animation and family entertainment at Marvel. And he talks about the inception of this show and how they really used the focus groups to help them craft the show.
Well, we showed so much of the material and the characters to girls and moms before we formulated our story. So they reacted to some things that they saw in publishing and were like, oh, I like Squirrel Girl's body in that illustration, or I like that, or like that. So we had feedback. We weren't just making it up as we go, but then we made sure as we got into character design and everything from style guide to toy design that we were representing that as consistently as we could, the differences.
So what do you hope, like all kinds of kids, what do you hope they'll get from this series?
Well, fortunately, we've shown a lot of girls already.
Oh, what have they gotten?
They were able to articulate back all the messages that we were trying to convey in the script. And first of all, you get comments like, this makes me feel powerful, and you just want to cry. Because, yes, all girls should feel powerful. But they really connected with some specific things. That friendship is important. If you have conflict in a friendship, that happens, you need to resolve it. That everybody should do the most with the skills and the abilities that they have and be empathetic and try and make the world a better place. That everybody's just figuring it out.
And another thing, we got to talk with Sana Amanat. She is also a co-executive producer and a lovely Indian woman. And she was also on hand to describe her role behind the scenes.
My name is Sana Amanat. I am VP of Content Development at Marvel. I'm also the co-executive producer of Marvel Rising.
Awesome. And this series is so amazing.
Thank you.
And I just want to know, like, when were you brought on to the process and how long did it take you to kind of develop this concept?
Oh, really? Very much from the beginning. I've been working at Marvel for a while. I've been able to develop a few different projects at the company, but I've also just been talking a lot about the importance of our female heroes, trying to engage with female audiences in particular, but also celebrate the fact that we have these fantastic female characters. So it was sort of a very natural alignment for me to be at the very beginning of the process and work with Court Lane and Marcia Griffin and a few other folks on the Marvel animation side to help really develop this story, but also decide what are the characters that we feel like have the most amount of potential. What are the characters that our audiences that we have been connecting with, that I've been talking to, really want more of, and that's really where we decided these characters in particular, and we talked to girls as well. But no, I've been there from the get-go, and it's been really incredible. I mean, I never thought that I'd be able to not only work at Marvel, but also be able to create a project that has so much significance and importance.
Well, it's funny because when you talked about it on Skywalking Through Neverland last night, I listened to it last night.
Oh.
So for me,
okay.
it was last night.
I was like, wait, what?
You did talk about Marvel Rising. Oh, people can go check that episode out. We will put it in our show notes so you can hear more. And you said Boo Boo Stewart was in it. You got you him from Twilight fame. And I'm like,
yep.
No, he's from the Descendants.
No, yeah, you said Twilight. I'm like, Descendants. What are you talking about? He's in the Descendants.
And it's both.
He's in both, but for me, it's from Descendants. So it was just kind of funny. Like I'm not a Twilight fan, but I was like, no, Boo Boo's from Descendants. And Dove, they not only did.
Well, let's hear a little from Boo Boo here,
Okay,
just talking about it.
Boo.
You're also in Descendants, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you always seem to play a baddie.
Yeah, I don't know why. I keep playing bad people in movies, but I'm not a bad person. Like,
No? Are you sure?
it's just because I'm not a bad person that I just really want to sometimes be bad. Like, I can play it well. I don't know.
Do you have a dark side?
Yeah, I definitely think you have to be able to play certain roles. There has to be a part of you that you see within the role, I think. So I would say yes. It's not a very, I don't know how dark it is. You know, it's maybe like a gray, mild gray.
But Dove Cameron, also from the Descendants, is in Marvel Rising. She's Gwen Stacy.
Nice.
Right? And she also, they have a theme song. She recorded a theme song for the whole.
Cool.
So they have a whole song. So Star Wars, you got to step your game up.
Yeah, I need to see this. If anything,
You do, and also, Teresa,
I'm
Tyler
about to say-
Posey.
I was about to say yes. Okay, so this is one of the reasons I need to see this is because Inferno is voiced by Tyler Posey, and Tyler Posey is from Elena of Avalor, and I freaking love that show. So yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. Why I haven't seen this, much less knew exactly what it was. See, what happens is I don't read Sarah's stuff that she posts like a really bad friend. So I need to up my game.
D. Bradley Baker is also in this.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
He plays a lot of fun characters. And of course, so Tyler Posey, he plays Inferno, which if you watch Marvel Rising Secret Warriors, the film, is actually a character you really, what is it called? He's an emotional character. You really get behind him.
Yes, you do. D. Bradley Baker is Lockjaw and Tippy Toe.
There you go. Tippy Toe. He's Tippy Toe.
Yeah. So
which is the squirrel that's the friend of Squirrel Girl. So just so you know.
Oh, in that picture, he's that little squirrel with the pink bow.
Yeah. Yes. So, I mean, if anybody's seen D. Bradley Baker at Star Wars Weekends, and you can find those videos on YouTube too, he is very good at just doing strange noises. So you can imagine him in a room making lockjaw and squirrel noises. So
I totally can.
And it's fun because the movie is about Miss Marvel and Squirrel Girl. So it's about girls having being friends and learning how to be allies and how to work within a system that doesn't necessarily want them to be part of this system of heroes. And there's a mother-daughter storyline in there that happens, and just a lot of normal things that teens go through. Any teen, not just girl teens, but just acceptance, working together, finding your place. That's happening for some of the young male characters as well. You know, figuring out as you go. I would say that the Terrigen Mist is sort of the equivalent of going through puberty in super.
Yes.
Yeah, you know, it's like trying to figure out how you belong as your body's changing. And so I felt like it was really relatable. And Squirrel Girl just makes the whole show because she's just hysterical.
Looks like it's time for two legendary heroes, Ms. Marvel and Squirrel Girl. Let's get nuts! And something about stretchy powers. It'll come to me.
She's kind of a fourth wall type of Deadpool character. So she's narrating everything that happens in her own kind of little fanficky fan way.
Yes, and she's played by Milana Weintraub, and I got to talk with her on the red carpet. And if you want to see funny, she's at the very beginning of my conversation with her. I have a video on YouTube, but she is tilting her head like, "Oh, what are you gonna say next?" Like, she's just adorable, and she does actually get candid in our conversation about what it's like growing up as a teen girl. She talks about developing breasts and everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but yeah, she is definitely my favorite character on the show. And what I love about this show is not only are there different races portrayed, different religions, but there's different body shapes. And Court Lane, the executive producer, also talked about that, how in order to do that, Squirrel Girl has bigger hips and thighs, and in order to do that, all the models had to be different, all the modeling in the computer and everything for animation. And of course, that's more expensive, which is why growing up, we didn't see animation like this. But when I first saw this series, that's what I was blown away by, because I feel like as a little girl, we all saw things like Little Mermaid with her tiny little skinny waist and other characters like that. Everyone was thin and these perfect proportions. And yet here is this show that is portraying all these different types. Captain America Chavez is a taller woman. She's very curvy, Latina. And you have Squirrel Girl, who's got the thicker thighs, which I always thought growing up as a teen, my thighs were so big, I'd sit down and they'd sploosh out and I'd be like, oh, and I'd be all self-conscious. But seeing shows like this, I think will really help young women, especially just, realize that there are different body shapes in the world and you should not be, unproud of what you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, speaking of different body shapes and bodies changing and regenerating.
That was good.
Thanks. The newest Doctor from the Doctor Who series has made her appearance known. Doctor Who season 11 with the 13th Doctor, played by Jodie Whittaker, premiered this past Sunday. And I can honestly say, I have found my new Doctor. I am in love with this woman. She is amazing. If you've never seen Doctor Who before, this is a perfect time to get into it. All you need to know is that the Doctor regenerates into different forms, and the Doctor's finally a woman. And it's so good. The episode is really, really just, I don't even know. I can't even talk. It's just really awesome. And she talks a lot about her body changing and her cells and all this stuff. And,
oh my gosh.
Well, because that's a big thing. It's the first episode of when the Doctor comes into their new body. They have to rest and heal and regenerate. And so they talk a lot about, their cells regenerating and their brain regenerating and trying to figure out who they are in this new body. And what makes it even cooler is that this particular Doctor, kind of like the lightsaber of Doctor Who is the sonic screwdriver, and she doesn't have one. And so she has to make one in this episode, which is really neat. And then the TARDIS, which is her spaceship, she doesn't have it, and still trying to find it. And so it's this very cool, complete reset. It's also got a little bit of a hint to the original Doctors back from, I want to say the 70s, I think is when the original Doctors were. And they had 2 or 3 companions, and the most recent Doctors with David Tennant and Matt Smith, they've only had 1 companion, and she's going to have 3, which is really awesome. And these 3 companions in the show are fantastic.
Are they people, or are they
they're people?
Animals?
Yeah, no, they're people.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all people. And there's a black guy. His name is Ryan, I believe. Trisha, you're gonna have to pick me up. And then there's, I don't know what her ethnicity is, but her name is Yasmin. I don't know if she's Indian or something, but obviously they're all British, but of their ethnic descent. And then there is a guy named Graham. It's really awesome. And then when she decides on her clothes, kind of like what we were talking about as teens trying to figure out what you're going to wear, she's going through basically the whole store, and she comes out in the trench coat with the rainbow striped shirt and they're not quite pants, but they're like mid-calf pants and suspenders. And they say, "Is that what you're going to wear?" And she's like, "Yep." I am wearing this. This is my outfit. And actually, you know, we just had our interview with Ashley Eckstein, and finally, Sarah, the Doctor Who collection is available. You can find it at Fox and Her Universe and Hot Topic, and it's a whole cosplay outfit. They have the suspenders, the shirt, the pants, the trench coat, the whole thing. And then there's a whole bunch of other either hoodies and hoodie dresses and things that have the rainbow theme to it for Doctor Who. And it's just really good. If you've never watched Doctor Who, now is the time.
Well, I've never watched, or I tried and I would keep turning it off. So I loved it. And that was my first time.
Oh, you watched it?
I did. Yeah.
Okay, so like I'm still a newbie, so why should I watch? Why would I like it?
If you want something that has a little bit of sci-fi to it, but also is quite funny, but has a lot of emotion and a very heartfelt story that you can get into, you will like it. The new showrunners have done a great job just with even this first episode. It's just stunning.
I will note that this Doctor Who has had the highest viewing audience with the female Doctor Who. It broke the record, 9 million viewers. So
excellent.
Women do sell stories.
Voting with their dollars.
Well, and I think that proves that the people who've been Doctor Who fans that they thought was maybe their main audience, male audience, came too. So, and they brought in some new fans like me.
And I would also just like to take this minute, since we're talking about Doctor Who, I want to plug one of our friends' podcast, Aaron Goins. He does a Doctor Who podcast called Bad Wolf Radio. And so go and check that out because they're really excited for the new Doctor as well.
Yay.
Yay.
So I guess now we have to talk about really the thing that was on the same day as Doctor Who.
I know. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy. Like the Star Wars Resistance episodes were available on Disney Now, and then Doctor Who premiered at 12:45 Central Time, and it was just this big conglomerate mush of I'm overload.
Well, and Sunday is also my last ship on TNT, which I like because it has a lot of diversity and inclusion in that show, and it's pretty interesting from a military standpoint. But so I was like way overwhelmed yesterday,
and it's too bad that Timeless wasn't on too.
I know.
You know what else premiered yesterday? Dancing with the Stars Juniors.
Woohoo! That's right.
There was so much.
And somehow I managed to fit in catching up on the finale, So You Think You Can Dance, which I missed. So, yeah, I was watching a lot of TV yesterday.
Can you imagine what it's like to be an ace pilot? This is your chance to make that true.
I've got a mission for you.
Yes!
So we had the double episode premiere, and then on demand, and I think also in the app, you could get the next 2 episodes. So I have watched all 4. You guys have watched all 4? 3?
Yes.
4, whatever.
Well, I guess they're on the app. They're showing it as 3.
I was watching it through Hulu, and when I went to Hulu and I clicked on The Recruit, and then I saw the next 2 episodes available, and I clicked on them and they played, and I was like, "Whoa, is Hulu messing up?" I thought I had got it.
You thought
for free.
you were getting like bonus episodes?
Yeah,
before
I was.
everybody. Yeah. Damn.
All right, so we have The Recruit and The Triple Dark, and the third one is Fuel for the Fire.
Okay.
For the fireball. No.
That's true. All right, so should we talk about like our first impressions?
Oh yeah. Can I go first?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, because I'm going to be the one that's like, I was sort of like, yeah, I don't know. So we got the trailer and I watched the first trailer, and then there's been all the other videos like introducing the Aces and Team Fireball and all of that. And I just was like, I don't really feel like watching these. I never did. So I never did. And I just was very skeptical. So then I watch it because of course it's Star Wars, so I'm going to watch it. And I was pleasantly surprised with the episode of The Recruit, which is technically, I guess, part 1 and part 2. The animation flows seamless. It's great. They didn't over anime the show. I was afraid they were going to do some of those anime things where they get the big eyes with like the thing
and the close-ups.
And it's like, wow, like the anime thing,
like speed.
Auga.
Yeah, stuff like that. And they didn't go there, so I was really happy about that. Also, some of these characters are so funny. And let me just say right now, Bucket is one of the best things. Why is it that the droids are one of the best things to happen with every single show, and then they kill them all off? So they better not kill Bucket. I'm really mad. They've already killed K2 and L3, so seriously, don't kill Bucket. I can't handle it. But overall, really good. The only thing I feel is really lacking is it doesn't really have a theme. Which I think is kind of sad. But I think
what do you mean by a theme? Like a music theme, or
Rebels had its intro, and Clone Wars has its intro. Mm-hmm. There's not really an intro with music. It's just sort of
it's a musical phrase, basically.
When I hear the Clone Wars one, you hear the Clone Wars, and same with Rebels. So I don't know. It didn't seem like there was much there from that standpoint, but the characters were really good, and I think they did a great introduction. And I'm pumped. My favorite character, his name is Niku, and he's the best because he's so literal, very literal, and I love.
He's the Data. He's the Data of Star Wars Resistance.
That's what he reminds me of.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. My first impressions, I really liked the animation. Seeing the first episode, it takes like one episode to kind of get over that hump of being like, oh, this is different, But upon watching it over again, because I've watched it like 3 times now, I really love the racing scenes. I mean, there are some serious Top Gun shots in there, like the cockpit shots, and you see like the sun glinting off the wings, and it's just really amazing. And I wish there was more racing, actually, in this whole series so far. Now, as to the characters, there was kind of a red flag raised when I was watching the first part of The Recruit, and that was because in that like the 22 minutes or however long it was, they were literally following 4 guys. And it just kind of bugged me because of the conversation right now. Star Wars is trying to change its image and have more Star Wars, and we had Forces of Destiny. But like in the first episode, you're just following Poe and Kaz, and you have BB-8 and you have Yeager. So there's like literally no women except for the bartender.
Aunt Z.
Yes, thank you, Aunt Z. And that just, I don't know why that struck a big chord with me. I think I've been talking to Trisha too much.
Yep.
Dang it,
she said, why is it that you could have all this and there aren't more female characters? Why isn't it 50-50? It's Trisha in the back of my head.
Yep, it was. And it's because, we'll go ahead.
Nothing less than 50-50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and this happened though, like the same week I'm seeing Marvel Rising and going to the Marvel Rising premiere and like falling in love with this show. So honestly, for me, the first impression wasn't that great just because I liked Marvel Rising more.
We actually had a
Star
text
Wars
conversation about that. It's okay to like Marvel Rising more.
So I did.
She was like feeling like she was all guilty, like
yeah. But I could relate so much more to Marvel Rising, and I realized that Resistance is aimed at a younger audience than Marvel Rising. I mean, Marvel Rising is aimed toward tweens, and you have that coming of age thing, whereas Kaz, he's relatable to little kids who are trying to, grow up, and like, Kaz is goofy and keeps running into stuff and, things like that, which I can't relate to. I can relate to girls growing and changing their bodies, Yep. So
but at the same time, I think Kaz is supposed to be a little bit on the older side. I mean, he's definitely in his teenage years or whatever. Oh, he's 20. See,
he's like,
why is he so spazzy for a 20-year-old?
Anyway,
but at the same time, like I kept thinking about Ezra when I'm looking at Kaz, and I'm like, Ezra was so much more whiny than Kaz is, but Kaz is a spaz. Kaz the spaz.
It's weird because when you talk about his age, Kaz's age, and we'll talk about some of the interviews that Sarah got to do too. And they want him to be relatable to this younger set that they're making the show for. But there's so many things about the show, just the animation style, all the little nuggets, all the little characters from the prequel trilogies and from the original trilogy, like the alien types.
Yes.
There's so many things in there, I think, that are for fanboys and fangirls existing, that if, don't stay away from it because you're worried about that. But Star Wars has to be careful because Ezra and Ahsoka were kids. Like, they were kids, and they talk about adolescence in the interviews, and they talk about the Kylo Ren being the story of adolescence. Kylo Ren is 29 and Kaz is 19 or 20. He's a pilot in the New Republic in the opening scene. So he's been through the academy. He's not particularly young. He's accomplished. So he's had a college education of some sort. And yet they're trying to portray him as somebody who's goofy and like a child. And at that age you are, but realistically, if you've gone through academy and you were flying space planes, I'm just going to say this because I worked in the Air Force, and I saw what they do to go through to put somebody in a multi-billion-dollar vehicle. You are not going to be goofy and clumsy and of poor judgment. That's just that's just a fact. And you can kind of suspend some things, but I feel like they're going to struggle a little because they're trying to make him a kid, and he's not a kid. He's got to grow and learn. There's some things he has to do, but they need to be careful when they're trying to make kid characters out of characters that are clearly not children. This is a New Republic that's been around for a while, and Yeager, who I keep wanting to call Jaeger, he keeps trying to say, we're beyond the Empire and we're over this, and we've, it's been, Kylo Ren's he was born after the Return of the Jedi, and this show is starting right at The Force Awakens, and Kylo's around 29. So it's been a while. They're not a world at war other than Leia and Poe think something's going to go down. So the thing that I'm interested in is that it's so close up to The Force Awakens, and we're going to kind of get to see that run up to it. And I did like the characters. I did like what was going on. I did not like it. Bugs me to no end that we can't have 50-50 women on this, especially up against something like Marvel Rising. This is not something that's overly difficult.
Well, yeah, and even Tam, she's our woman in the mechanic in Team Fireball, and she's not likable right now. Because every time we see her, she's reactionary to Kaz and just like kind of throwing buckets of water on him, like, "Oh, you're doing this way, and I'm upset."
Well, can you blame her? I mean,
no, I can't.
She had been promised the fireball, and then this dude shows up, and he's like, "Yeah, whatever." Like, it's literally dismissed. Like,
right.
I would be cranky too if I were her, but it's like, well, okay, you just go over there and just be spicy girl who's gonna, and then we have what's the other girl's name? Tora
Doza.
Doza. And
who's been like non-existent. She was there for 2 seconds.
And I think she'll probably be interesting. But that character, we have Kaz's father, which I'm intrigued by.
Yes.
And then Tora, did I say it? Or she's got an important father. I'm like, can we just have an important mother?
Well, what I don't understand is for like 3 episodes, Yeager is telling Kaz, okay, go over there and fix stuff. And he's clearly not a mechanic. Yeah. And what they could have is Tam, who is a mechanic, teaching Kaz. And yeah, she's upset at him, but like maybe they could get over that in an episode and a half, and then Tam becomes kind of nurturing and helps out, or something that kind of speaks more to her character.
Who do we have? We have executive producer Athena Portilla, who's came a long way. They did some articles on her, and then we have Justin Ridge, who is from Star Wars Rebels. He worked on that. He's the one who took over when Dave Filoni was no longer the showrunner. And then Brandon Oman, who's new to Star Wars, but not to animation. He's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I think, is the...
Yes, and he was a writer on Marvel, a lot of Marvel TV series, and then he was executive producing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and then when Star Wars comes knocking at your door, you say yes.
Exactly. Well, I wanted to maybe play the clip from Athena where she talks about what you asked her, I think, this question, right? What being an executive producer means.
Yeah. So let me set this up a little bit because we're going to play some clips from this roundtable that I attended. So I want to thank, first of all, Fangirls Going Rogue and Trisha. You kind of sent me a text the week before and said, "Hey, what are you doing on Tuesday?" And I happen to be doing nothing. And so we got this great invite to this press roundtable at the Disney offices in Burbank. And who was there was basically the executive producers, Athena Portillo, Justin Ridge, and Brandon Auman. And then we got to speak with Christopher Sean, who is the voice of Kaz, Susie McGrath, who is the voice of Tam, Donald Faison, who voices Hype Faison, and Bobby Moynihan, who voices Orca. So that's basically the overall concept. So now let's get into what Athena says about, what I really wanted to know, because when researching the executive producers, is that none of them had really executive produced a show before. So what I really wanted to know was what exactly they do for Star Wars Resistance and how it was different from their previous jobs. So this is what Athena had to say.
For me personally, it's changed in the sense that I feel like I have more confidence in having a voice in the room, whether it's in a mixed playback or in an editorial session. I feel like I can actually say something, and Justin is open to hearing what I have to say, whether it's something that we want to make a change or not, so it feels great.
Awesome. I thought it was interesting that she said that she felt like she had this voice in the room. It's like, you didn't feel like you had a voice before. That's sad.
Yeah. Which is, maybe she's learning to flex it sometimes to, you're in the room, especially with somebody who's knows storytelling like Dave Filoni. Maybe you feel like, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Or, she started working on, she wanted to work on Star Wars and work on film based on her experiences. This is how she relayed a story in some articles. She talked about it several different times. She started on Strange Magic, and Dave Filoni actually said, well, with your license plate, which was Jedi 96, why are you working on that fairy movie? And he brought her into Star Wars to work on the Clone Wars. So she's been working on that ever since as a line producer, essentially, right? So she's a person who looks at how much money they have to spend and makes everything happen, right?
Exactly.
And that she did a panel that Kay covered her Fangirl blog about producing, and that was at Celebration Orlando, long time ago, back in the Clone Wars days. So you can read a little bit about what she's done. And she did talk on the San Diego Comic-Con panel where they did the Clone Wars 10 years about being part of it. And I think it's really great that she's getting to step up. So, hopefully we'll see from the show that we see more women having voices in addition to her being in there and being able to flex her muscles. Probably for her, this is, Justin Ridge is directed, so he is used to having a voice in the story and kind of pushing for what he wants, and Brandon also too. So I hope Athena gets to kind of flex her muscle and get it done. They also mentioned that really this was Dave Filoni's idea, the story, and Amy Beth Christensen got to kind of help him develop the look and the feel of it. But, he had to let this baby run so he could direct live action TV. And so I was excited for that. It's crazy because when you look at the basics of this story, it has all the fundamental things of my novel Wind, which is fighter pilots and galactic level conflict and Christopher Sean, he's half Asian, right? He's biracial, or is he full Asian?
I think he's full. Well, what do you mean, Christopher Sean himself?
Yeah, the actor,
Japanese American. I know. And I'm not sure if that's biracial.
I believe he is, but my lead character, but it's all around these space racers that race through rings and things, and so that part of it is really exciting. But it was really exciting to hear Christopher Sean talk about getting to play Kazuto Xiono. Did I say that right?
I think you did.
I feel like I'm sneezing when I talk about it.
The trick is to think of it as one word, Kazuto Xiono.
Uh-huh. And also, he was born in Washington State. He is Japanese on his mother's side and Irish, Spanish, and German on his father's side.
So he's like all over. He's like really mixed. So even more fun. So I kind of like that. But Sarah, what did you think of interviewing him and his?
Yeah. Okay. So he was a kick. Like it was really funny because on the show, he plays this goofy guy, but in person, he just looks really put together. You know, he was wearing a nice jacket and he was all excited. Like all the actors were so excited to be there. This was, once again, their first time being able to talk about their characters. And then they come to our table, which we're all the fan press. We weren't just the press. So they were getting fun questions from us. And he actually stayed after and took some pictures with us by his poster. 'Cause like, if you're on a poster, well, you want a picture with that, right? So he was excited and I just got this great impression from him, and much better impression from him than from Kaz himself, actually. But let's hear what he has to say about, getting this job.
I think they were looking for an Asian American because they wanted to promote diversity. They wanted to promote inclusion. They wanted to allow Asian Americans to be a part of diversity, to have a voice, to have role models, to have the whole community, because obviously there's Black, Latino, Asian, and Nikto up there. Yeah, right? So, I mean, really, like, you've got a lot of diversity, and you've got a lot of people that can say, that's me, I'm a part of the Star Wars universe. Finally, after so many years of not having inclusion, it's here, in your face. So it's nice, it's really cool, and my job is to just do my job the best I possibly can and make sure that he's a likable and loving character that people can relate with.
I relate with Kaz just because he's in this situation where you're just trying to figure out like what you need to do. The character itself actually feels like really how you are when you come out of college, because they tell you how to do all these things. They teach you a bunch of stuff, and then they're like, okay,
go.
Like, here's your job. And you're like, but what am I supposed to do? And they're like, well, you have an engineering degree. Didn't they teach you anything in college? No, they didn't tell me how to do any of this stuff. And, I know that is for being a teacher and for anything else when you come out of school or when you get in this is your job. And he's obviously looking up to Poe, who he thinks is Poe's awesome and just knows how to do everything. That's his impression. He comes and saves the day, no problem. And now you got to live up to Poe Dameron's expectations. So I find that should be really relatable to anybody. But I'm amazed because Christopher Sean does look so put together, but he did a great job of voicing this character that's just kind of trying to prove himself, but he's not very confident. You can tell he's confident, but not. It's like, yeah. That's part of the journey. So you got to speak to Susie McGrath too, which we don't know enough about the character for me to have a feeling on her. Mm-hmm. But was there anything that she said that you think would make an impression?
Yeah. So, one of the things I did ask her was like, will we get to know Tam? Like, will there be a Tam-centric episode? And this is what she said about that.
Yeah, will there be like some Tam-centric episodes down the line? Because I'm really eager to see more.
I hope so. I mean, I don't know how much I can say, but I certainly hope so. I mean, you do get to you will get to know Tam.
Okay.
I was reassured by that, because I know in these first 3/4 episodes, we don't really see much of her. So I'm hoping to see more of her as she goes along. But once again, one of the things she let slip, which is not on anything on StarWars.com or anything, was this information right here to our fan-centric press table.
So Tam aspires to be a pilot. She is very hardworking, and she actually left her home planet of Kuwait and to be a famous racer, and fell on some hard times, crashed her plane, and has found herself on the Colossus.
Okay, so Kuat, we all kind of, our ears perked up at that because that is the home to the Kuat drive yards, which manufactured both Republic and Imperial ships, like, throughout galactic history. So, interesting that she's from a shipbuilding planet, and I'm not sure what to think about that, but the people at my table were certainly like, ooh.
Their ears perked up like little...
Yeah.
Like little fan kids. Woohoo.
Yes. What do you guys get from that?
Well, I think it's, again, there's a lot of nods to existing lore in the show visually, so it doesn't surprise me that we'll get something like that. Did anybody notice, like, the braces on her legs?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, that's almost like, I couldn't tell if they were braces or just part of her boots or not.
Wait, Tam or Susie?
Tam.
Tam.
Okay, Tam. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not.
It looks like she might have those braces on for a reason. So I'm curious if there's any backstory and like Teresa, I haven't watched too much or looked into too many things about the backstory. I haven't looked at their bios on StarWars.com or any of that stuff. So maybe there is lore out there that we should know about. But I'm waiting for the story to tell me these things. So
yes. Well, Susie was adorable, and she was actually our last interview. So the room had kind of emptied out at that point, and she also wanted a picture in front of the poster, and then she posed with this really goofy picture of us, and she actually posted it on her Instagram. So Susie.McGrath, and it's Susie with a Z in the middle, and there's a picture of me and Richard with her. I was like, oh, look at that. So I thought that was cute, and it just kind of confirms how excited these voice actors are to be a part of the Star Wars universe.
So then, was Donald Faison the most excited?
I think so. And he was our first interview, and we're like, woohoo! And he comes up to the table all like, just a bundle of energy. And a lot like Richard, actually. And he was super excited. And, one of the first things he said was...
The name Faison will live forever in Star Wars lore.
Well, welcome back to Star Wars.
Thank you very much.
It was pretty awesome. I loved it. So it was fun to talk with him. And he's been, forever a fan of Star Wars. In fact, he actually talks about his Black Stormtrooper video and meeting Dave Filoni at the Force Awakens premiere.
I created a stop-motion animation short called Black Stormtrooper. I ran into Dave Filoni at the Force Awakens premiere. And when he introduced himself, well, he didn't introduce himself. When he said hello to me, he said, "Hey, Black Stormtrooper."
Wow.
And he didn't say, "Hey, Donald Faison." And when he did that, I was like, I lost, as anyone would. I created a name for myself, and Star Wars Head said it, right? I created a Star Wars name, and a Star Wars Head said it. And I thought that would be it. And he said to me, he was like, "Listen, I have you in mind for something. It's not going to be for a really long time, but I have you in mind, just so you know." And I was like, "Yeah, all right." And then Rebels came out, and I was like, "I guess you didn't really have me in mind." And then I got the call. "Listen, they're making a new Star Wars show that comes on after Rebels. Are you interested in being a part of it?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely."
Okay, so then, I did ask him what his favorite character was growing up, getting into Star Wars, and he mentioned, of course, Lando Calrissian, and, he was very super excited about voicing Hype Faison, but when we asked if he got to pick what his character would look like, he had an answer for us, and he seemed a tiny bit deflated. So listen to this and see what you think.
"You're a Rodian." That's pretty much what happened. "Hey, you're a Rodian." I was all right with it. I thought Hype Faison was going to be a black guy with, a bald head and a beard and mustache. I thought, preferably, whatever color this is right now, I thought that would be Hype Faison. And when they said you're a Rodian, I was happy. I'm not going to say I was disappointed, because anytime you're able to do Star Wars and have your name in Star Wars, there's no way you can be disappointed. But
he didn't expect to be green.
No. And in fact, he did mention, like, he showed his kids, oh, that's me. That's my character. And his kids were like, nah, that's not you, Dad. You know, because he doesn't look like a Greedo. Not a Greedo. I know.
He's not a Greedo.
He's not a Greedo. I'm using Teresa's term.
Yeah, those Rhodian things.
Thank you. The Rhodian.
It's okay.
So,
you don't have to remember all the characters' names. I don't remember all the characters' names, and I wrote Ultimate Star Wars, so I still have to look them up. That's so funny. I did like his answer to your question, Sarah. The way you got to end the interview, which was who is his favorite character. So in Star Wars, which kind of seems like a no-brainer. So we'll let him tell you.
What drew you? I mean, I know we asked what drew you to Star Wars, but was there a particular character that you gravitated toward?
Growing up?
Yes.
Lando Calrissian. You want to know why? Because he was the first black person in the Star Wars universe, other than Darth Vader.
What is your favorite Lando line?
Well, what do we have here? I'm Lando Calrissian.
There are a lot of fun little side characters in this show.
Bucket! Sorry.
Orca and Flix are so funny. I love them. I love them so much.
Let's see. So Orca is voiced by Bobby Moynihan.
Yes. And he was there. He is also on DuckTales.
Woo!
Oh, thank you. You took my hint. And he was one of a surprisingly fun interview. You know, he's been on SNL. He actually wrote during The Force Awakens.
Matt, the radar technician.
Thank you. Matt, the radar technician. And he tells this hilarious story of being at Comic-Con and having all these Matt, the radar technicians take pictures with him.
I walked into Comic-Con that year and there was 27 Matts together.
Wow.
And I walked up to him asking for a picture and they had no clue who I was.
Oh my God.
And they were like, sure, thanks. And
they were playing.
I was like, I was in that. I wrote that. I'm the reason why you're wearing that.
Yeah.
Made it like a day.
Oh my God.
They had no clue who I was. It was amazing. But I voice a Stormtrooper in this. I have a couple lines as a Stormtrooper here and there, so now in my mind, Matt is canon.
Which is the best part. He's always done Star Wars skits on SNL. Like they've done a bunch of them that are really funny and spot on about collecting and different things. So he's like really an uber fanboy in a big way. He seems so excited to be there. Like, I'm just doing this. And I'm thinking, doesn't he have an SNL skit, like a show to do? They let him go away for a couple of days. Wow.
Yeah, I know.
So, Sarah, there was a fun question that you got to ask him about just getting to see his character the first time. So let's hear what he had to say on that.
I spent a lot of time trying to make up characters at SNL, and then all of a sudden they're like, hey, you're going to be some Star Wars characters. And you're like, well, and they showed me my character for the first time, and I went like, my first thought was, are you guys Star Wars fans? You know, in New Hope, in the cantina scene, Cade, he's trying to grab the drink off the bar and he can't because the gloves are he's so crappy. And I was like, I'm one of them. They're called Chadra fans, which I found out through this. And like, I went like, I'm one of those guys. Like, oh my God.
Yay, it's a Chandra fan. And oh my gosh, I want a plush.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of plush potential in this show. For sure. Definitely.
All those rounded edges and cute fluffy things.
Well, you know, and I already, when I was watching the first 3 episodes, we'll call it, I was like, oh, Lego set. Could be a Lego set. Minifigure.
Yeah. Colossus would be a
the Colossus, the Fireball would be one. If we ever see Jaeger's ship, but I was just thinking of them in minifigure format.
That was such a good segue into the collecting corner.
Oh, hey, look at that. Look, and our first thing is about Lego.
It was a good segue, but I want to plug where you can find the article about the voices behind Star Wars Resistance, and that's on fangirlsgoingrogue.com. And that's where I have the article plus pictures from the Star Wars Resistance roundtable and all the fun things that happened. So yeah, if you want to learn more, head to fangirlsgoingrogue.com.
So one of the things that is out right now, and I'm so glad we're recording this episode when we are, because this is a super, super important thing. If you want this, you need to get it within the next few weeks, because if you don't, it's going to be sold out and you won't be able to get it. So the Lego Advent Calendars came out right at the beginning of September. There's Star Wars and then a couple other themes that are available. The Star Wars one is the only one that we really care about here. Although I will say the Lego Friends one is awesome. The Star Wars Advent Calendar, it came out, and one of the minifigures that you get in there is actually Rowan Freemaker. So he is in there. So if you don't have a Rowan Freemaker minifigure, this is a great way to get it. I did pick up mine and I'm super excited. If you go right now to your Lego store on lego.com, if they still have if it's still available. Yeah, because it's supposed to be, it's a free gift with purchase that's available until the 14th of October. However, it's while supplies last. If you spend $35 in Lego Star Wars, you get a Han Solo Mud Trooper minifigure that's exclusive. Has not been in any other set or anything. And I know that our friend Kai Charles, I can't speak today, she did pick up her Lego Star Wars Advent Calendar, and we were kind of talking about it in our Facebook group. And it is, doing the Advent Calendars is really fun. And I know, Sarah, you asked me once, well, what do you do with them afterwards? Well, there's all kinds of things you can do. If you wanted to turn them into ornaments that you hang on your tree, there's all kinds of things that you can do with the little builds that you get. So they do all kinds of things, and I think there's 5 exclusive minifigures in here. Theoretically supposed to open 1 door a day up until Christmas. Mm-hmm. That's what I will do, and I will open it and build it and then just post the pictures on Instagram every day. But I know if you really want to know what's in there, it's already on YouTube. They do sell out. Like I said, they do sell out big time. And so if you want these Lego Star Wars Advent Calendar, then you need to go and pick it up ASAP.
So pick it up and don't watch YouTube.
Yeah, basically don't watch it if you don't want to see. But I did mention the Star Wars Friends Advent Calendar. That is the Star Wars Friends. That's not a thing. Lego Friends. What's neat about that Advent Calendar is that all of the models that you build are actually pre-made to be ornaments on the tree. So they already have the Lego piece that will have a little hole that you can run a string through, or an ornament hook, so that you can actually put it on your tree. So I am pumped about that one too. Yeah. I need to pick that one up before it sells out completely. And then Star Wars Women of the Galaxy by Amy Ratcliffe. The book is coming. I don't remember what the release date is. Someone help me.
October 30th.
October 30th. Yes. And so This is by our friend Amy. And I am pumped for this. It had its own panel at New York Comic Con, which...
Who's the publisher?
Chronicle Books. I'm really excited to see this, and I'm so happy for Amy.
A lot of the artwork is now out, like between StarWars.com and just people posting pictures. I mean, there's so many beautiful pieces of art from different creators. It's incredible. There's a nice Emphas Nest one.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I believe Kathleen Kennedy wrote the foreword for this. So
wow. So is the panel available to watch? Do you know?
I don't know. I know it was on Thursday of New York Comic Con, and then on Saturday was the Women Authors of Star Wars panel.
Oh.
So there was 2 separate ones. Yeah, I don't know if any of the New York Comic Con panels are available on streaming or online.
You know, it's crazy because of all the parts of Star Wars, the books have been, and I find this crazy to believe because it's so, that's where I started blogging, was about the books.
It's crazy because it didn't used to be like this.
No, it's the most progressive. I mean, we are seeing a lot of women writing really cool stories and female characters that people are really falling in love with. In the comics, it was Dr. Aphra, and, you know, then the books with a lot of female authors, a lot of great stories, you know, and Claudia Gray's book is coming out we saw the cover for that for Master and Apprentice, but, you know, it's 2 male characters that are the main, you know, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, but I feel like we'll get some awesome characterization no matter what, and some great female characters within it. It's crazy that the books are the most progressive place in Star Wars, but take a clue. The rest of Star Wars.
Yes. In fact, I just got in the mail today from
Yeah,
Disney
me too. Me
Lucasfilm
too.
Press.
Me too.
2 books.
Yes, by females.
And Star Wars Search Your Feelings is, yes, by Katie Cook. And also it is written, so it's illustrated by Katie Cook, but it's also written by Calliope Glass and Caitlin Kennedy, 2 females. And then we have Star Wars Lando's Luck. It is written by Justina Ireland, and I do believe, illustrated by Annie Wu.
Yeah,
so all female.
Justina Ireland was on the panel for the women authors at New York Comic Con, and we talked about this a few episodes ago. But this is the first book in the Flight of the Falcon series.
Yep.
So really excited about that. And
wait, what Lando's Luck is?
Yes, it's the first book of the Flight of the Falcon series. So,
and this is going to be books like people using the Falcon.
Correct.
Basically.
And if you would like more information about Star Wars books, you can listen to my podcast, Star Wars Bookworms.
That was good too.
Whoa.
They also announced Alphabet Squadron,
which I think is fabulous, by the way.
Okay, what is this? What is this?
Alexander Friedman.
No, Freed.
Freed. Oh, Freed. Friedman is the choreographer on So You Think You Can Dance. That's I feel like they're so trying not to do like Rogue Squadron stuff that they're like, oh, we're going to have Alphabet Squadron.
Well, I think it's awesome because it's like A Wing, B Wing, X Wing, C Wing.
Is it a book?
Yes,
what is it?
It's a book. Sort of in, what was the squad book?
The ABC 3PO?
No, this is like an
No,
adult.
not like that. Not a kid's book. This is a novel.
I think it's supposed to be like a Rogue Squadron or a Wraith Squadron, but we can't go there. We have to have Black Squadron and Alphabet Squadron. I mean, of all the things to give people where you're playing with things that people liked. They killed Hobby, and I'm like, come on, people, those were so popular. We got Thrawn. Why can't we go back and have? That's one of the places that was so successful and inclusive. Thank you very much. And Star Wars.
The not final cover is really awesome though, because it has an X Wing, a Y Wing, an A Wing, a B Wing, and a U Wing. So I just think it's funny when you say Alphabet Squadron. I've always thought of the ships in Star Wars like that. I'm like, why? They're all shaped like their letter except for the B Wing. It doesn't look like a B.
Okay, so it's a Del Rey book, Rebel Pilots Hunting Down Imperials.
Yes.
By Alexander Freed.
Yep.
Okay.
But but Master and Apprentice, oh my goodness gracious. And the cover, Trisha, when I saw
this is by Claudia Gray?
Yes.
Master and Apprentice?
Yes.
Nice. All right, I'm in.
They're my boys. They're my boys.
But Trisha, when I saw the cover for this, it gave me feels of the EU because the cover has EU feels.
Oh, it does. So it has Qui-Gon Jinn and it has Obi-Wan in there. I guess what look is this from the first
Phantom
episode
Menace.
1? Thank you. Episode 1, but it has that nice like painterly feel.
Yeah, it's like the old school cover.
Yeah, old school covers. Yeah, and the only other thing that they announced at New York Comic Con, books and comics wise, is that Chuck Wendig is doing Shadow of Vader. It's a 5-issue series comic with the point of view on how, like, on other characters' point of views, how Vader affected them, which could be interesting. Is what I'm like, because there's been so many Vader comics. When it comes to comics and Darth Vader, I'm like, meh, Right. So since I'm just think that point of view might be interesting, but you never know.
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
I'd like to just see, I don't know, how somebody different do Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, the Aftermath trilogy is not one of my favorites, though.
The problem with that trilogy was like try to do way too much, and there's just way too much in it, and it just needed some editing. It needed some time. So
anyway,
that's like we can just keep hiring white male dudes that are mediocre storytellers to do stuff.
And so, Sarah, I know you have something you're excited about.
I do. What is this new Resistance Hasbro, though?
Oh, the Hasbro action figures. We do have Resistance action figures. They announced at New York Comic Con. Yes. One of the ones I thought's interesting is the female pilot that we don't, female pirate that we don't see very much. She was one of the action figures, so maybe she'll have a bigger role later on.
I hope so. Well, if they're making that's neato.
Yeah.
Wow, she's got purple skin, right? With the blue.
I know.
Blue lips.
Somebody's going to have fun painting himself purple for some cosplay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's some awesome. Wow, I love that. Well, there is some more figures that are out, and it is in the form of Marvel Rising dolls, the action figures. So they have incorporated into the Marvel Rising multi-platform animated series, they have dolls that are the same size as the Forces of Destiny figures. So I have 4 of them sitting right here.
Oh, nice.
Squirrel Girl is so cute. And just like in the animated series, they all have different shapes. So Squirrel Girl, she has like the bigger hips and thighs, and she's got the cute fuzzy squirrel tail. And she's got great colors too. So she's like reds and greens and mauves. And it blends together really nicely with her hair color. And then you have Ms. Marvel, and she's kind of skinny, like that teenage gangly shape. So that's her. And her outfit looks like some great pajamas. Like she's got this long sleeve blue, longer shirt and some red leggings. And it's adorable. Like, so she's cute. Now I haven't taken them out to like assess whether or not, they move good, but I'm assuming they're pretty much like your average Barbie doll where everything moves, all the joints. And let me see. Oh, but also Ms. Marvel has a big giant hand. So one of her superpowers is she can embiggen. So she'll like get really big, or she can stretch kind of like Elastigirl, but like she gets bigger too. So her right hand is like larger, and then if you look at the package, I just saw this the other day, but if you look down, there's actually a normal sized hand.
This kind of addresses we discussed after Jenny Nicholson, the YouTuber, brought it up about Forces of Destiny, seeing kind of a variety of dolls. There's also some of the male characters are included.
Yes.
So
I have Patriot right here.
Yeah, and she said that was one of the problems with Forces of Destiny was it was the same character over and over, and that would not encourage play. Whereas it would, a kid, if you bought these and they had their Forces of Destiny characters as well, they could kind of do all sorts of mashups and crossovers and whatever you like. Whoever could play with whoever, but all these characters are different and look different, which help and have different personalities, which helps children particularly play.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, I think it's time for some shout outs. Roll it, Rob Dellinger.
Shout it out to the social media from Teresa and Trisha and Sarah. Shout it out, fangirl shout outs.
All right, so our first shout out is actually to my friend Matt that I work with at the Lego store. I had no idea that he actually listened to the show. Apparently he's been listening for a while, and he seemed he was making comments to me about our interview with Ashley, which I'll get to in just a second, but I said, you listen to my podcast? And he goes, of course I do. Like, it was just, like, I was just like, okay, well, that's really awesome. Thanks, Matt. But what he said is that he loved the Ashley interview because it was insightful and different, and it felt like a real conversation and just not all business, which is what we were going for. So it came across, and I'm super glad.
Thank you, Matt.
We got an email from our discussion about the Force as a character, and it was so nice. I wanted to read it on the air because I think he just said it like summed up everything we said perfectly. So this is from Matthew Barker. He said, "Hi, my name's Matthew. I started listening to your podcast earlier on this year because I wanted to hear a more female perspective on all things Star Wars. I just wanted to say that I really enjoy what you do, and I look forward to hearing all of your podcasts moving forward." Thank you, Matt. The discussion you had in the last episode made me think a lot about the Force. I've always made my own ideas up as to what the Force is and what role it plays in the Star Wars universe. Personally, I really latched onto the idea of the living Force, as Yoda points out that life creates it, makes it grow, and Obi-Wan says it's an energy field created by all living things. If the light side living Force is a natural energy created by living things and life in turn helps it grow, then perhaps the dark side is simply nature's opposite. To me, following the will of the living Force as a Jedi would simply translate to preserving life and helping it to prosper wherever possible. I also noticed that the dark side users in Star Wars typically look like they're decaying, which plays into the idea that the dark side of the Force is simply the natural opposing energy of the living Force, a kind of death energy. So a Force wielder tapping into the dark side would then in theory simply be upsetting the balance of nature. I hope that makes some kind of sense. I thought it made perfect sense.
It does. It makes great sense.
I like it. So then the balance of the Force, I mean, you have to have things die to then, it's kind of like the phoenix rising from the ashes, right?
Yeah.
You know, like a forest fire makes things die, but then in turn it creates new life.
It fits very much into what we saw Rey say when she sat on the rock and reached out and Luke asked her what she saw. So I feel that's all in that same, you know.
Absolutely.
In that same thing. She saw little baby porgs being born and little porgs dying.
Little porg gorgs.
Yep.
Wow.
So since that discussion inspired a great email, maybe our next character discussion will inspire more great emails.
Sidious, Anakin, Luke and Leia, Qui-Gon Jinn, C.O. Bibble, Kylo Ren, Salacious Crumb, Bib Fortuna, Boba Fett, Amidala, Wicket, R2-D2, BB-8, I can barely keep it straight. It's a character discussion. It's the fangirls on character. It's a character discussion.
None of us are quite ready to discuss our favorite Star Wars Resistance characters yet. However, there is a character in this show that we can definitely talk about, and his name is BB-8.
I thought we were talking about Poe.
Oh, no.
Oh,
honey, we're talking about BB-8. I'm sorry.
Gosh. I'm so
her disappointment is palpable.
I know.
It is palpable.
Over Skype.
I need little BB-8.
BB-8. Yeah. So, BB-8 as a character, but more than that, kind of the idea of droid sentience here, because there have been some amazing droids that have come through Star Wars with the new movies. We've got L3, we have K2, and those seem very sentient. And so does BB-8, honestly. BB-8 and his personality is just incredible, but how they portray him in Star Wars Resistance seems almost seamless to him in the films. It's like he just rolls into the animation as if, no problem. I'm just BB-8. I just do what I do.
I feel like we need to almost go back to how we met BB-8 in The Force Awakens, because he's the beginning and there's Poe and the First Order's coming and he just trusts BB-8 to take this information and get it back where it needs to go. And it makes sense that he'd be like, no, BB-8, I need you to stay here with Kaz and just make sure everything's okay.
Definitely. And the way he's animated in Resistance is just so cute. Like his timing is impeccable. I think his timing of any of the other characters in terms of laughs is like perfect. Cause there's times when, someone will say something and the camera will pan to BB-8 and he'll be like, and move his head. Just perfectly timed. And I love that about him.
Well, he always ends up having, I don't understand how he has so many tools on the inside of him. Kind of like R2. It's like R2 has all these things and you don't even realize. And, he's got like magnet hooks or something that shoot out of him so that he can get the comm that falls between things that no one else can reach, or he has this thing that he can shoot out of him to save people that are falling off of the edge of a ledge. Like, where is this coming from?
It's BB-8 magic. He's way bigger inside than you even ever knew.
He's got an enlargement charm.
No, he's a TARDIS.
He says, "Embiggen."
Ingorgio is actually the spell for that.
Right, but Embiggen is from Marvel.
Yeah,
So
well,
there
I
you
know,
go.
but I was taking a moment to have a Harry Potter dig. Sorry. No, but BB-8 is just he's so great, and his sound is perfect. And I do wonder if they're pulling his sound from the films.
I know there's definitely film sounds in there.
Okay.
Yes.
And we do know the person who's doing the sound on this.
Yes.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, we do.
I think his name is Dave.
Dave
Something. David
Collins.
Oh, yeah.
David Collins.
David Phil. Something.
David Collins, who was on the latest episode of Skywalking Through Neverland.
What?
I'm so happy for him. There isn't a nicer person in Star Wars fandom. He's such a sweet guy.
That is
so hardworking and so knowledgeable about Star Wars. And so we should.
Are we talking about Dave Filoni or David Collins?
David Collins. David Collins.
David Collins.
No, because he's working on the sound for the show. So, but I feel like BB-8 because he's this whole construct of the puppeteers who first had to, and J.J. Abrams is like, let's make a rolling droid because we can't do that. And then Bob Iger's like, well, you can only do them that way if you can make them in the parks, and because we're gonna apparently see BB-8 droids or BB droids. I still wish he was just the only one. Not just how he says one of a kind.
Like a one and done.
Yeah, he's one of a kind. And then we see, what's his name? BB Hate or
BB-90.
Yeah.
There was no
BB-90.
point in BB-90 even existing.
Well, I think they had bigger plans for BB-90, but it would have been really cool if he literally was one of a kind, not just, he's orange and white.
A series, right.
He's literally one of a kind, Poe made him or something, or maybe something even cooler, like Kylo made him and now Poe has him or something like that. Yeah. So, but I just, it's crazy that, all this, and then they're like, oh, let's pull this old Disney patent out. And they do make a droid that rolls and can actually do all these things. But he has a life of his own, but it all comes from people making sounds and other people making puppet things and making the right little gestures so he looks like who he is. And I remember Daisy really talking about her first couple of weeks were working with BB-8 in The Force Awakens, and she felt like he was like the baby and she had to take care of him, but he doesn't really need to be taken care of, does he?
No,
he takes care of everyone else. He's a lot like R2.
Yeah, I think
he
was working Rey.
Yeah. He did that on purpose. But Bucket from Star Wars Resistance, we haven't seen him a whole lot, but what we have seen, he does have that sentient feel. Then the last episode, he's doing inventory and other things, and he notices that something is missing and he just freaks out. And he starts running all over the place, and you just see him in the background, screaming.
What was that? The Corellian
the
hyperfuel?
Corellian, the Corellian hyperfuel.
Yes.
But I love that Bucket is essentially just the inside guts of an R2 droid wearing a Rebel pilot helmet.
Is that why he looks so weird?
Yeah, he's an R2 droid that has none of his outer casings. It's just the frame, and then just the eye.
He's like a 3PO in
I was
the Phantom Menace when he's like, you don't have any
Yep.
clothes on.
I'm naked.
Yeah, Bucket's essentially naked. I wonder if he knows.
But now that goes back to the sentience.
Yeah.
Does he know and does he care?
No, maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just likes living that way. He's free.
He's from
He's going commando.
the nudist colony of droids.
Well, L3 would probably support that.
Yes.
I just got a chance to watch a little bit of Solo the other day because my mom has it. I, for some reason, have not gotten it yet. I don't know why. I think life has gotten away from me. But I was watching it, and, just that line where Lando's like, do you need anything? And equal rights. Oh my gosh. And I think that the droids in Star Wars give life to the show in general, to the movies, to the TV shows or whatever, because they're some of our favorites. I mean, Chopper, come on.
Well, this begs the question, actually, the same question we had with the Force. Would Star Wars be Star Wars without the Force? No. Would Star Wars be Star Wars without droids?
No. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No way.
It's like a major part and piece of the puzzle. And that's why there's a new droid in every new film and new movie. That's probably why they had to have BB-9E. They needed something.
Well, I know, but why do they have to kill them all? Come on.
I know.
Well, he was supposed to have like a showdown or something with BB-8, but they used a droid in the opening of Resistance, right? When it started out with the planet, and then we go.
Oh yes,
we go
R4
over the dome, and then we don't. Then he's gone. I'm like, well, I wanted to see Kaz's little droid, but he didn't get to come with them.
Yeah, what's so cool? He's like cool colors. He's like lime green and turquoise.
Yeah,
like when do we ever see those colors in Star Wars? That was one of the things I really liked about the opening of Resistance and Kaz's original outfit, is it was some really bright, cool colors. Like, man, it's awesome.
They had the New Republic outfit, but then did his droid get conscripted into the Resistance because Kaz went on his way, or what happened?
No,
I don't know.
Sure. I guess maybe he must have stayed on the Resistance ship because he wasn't with Kaz when he went to the Colossus.
BB-8 says he should be the star of his own show.
Yeah, I would watch that show.
I would watch a BB-8 show. He should be a talk host, like a talk show host.
Droids are never like the main character, and when they are, Clone Wars. What's that arc that I hate?
Oh, that was the worst.
I know
it was terrible.
I liked it.
The D Squad.
Yeah.
The D Squad arc. Wander.
I guess that's why droids aren't the main characters.
Well, yeah, those droids sucked compared to you know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
Those droids were just not good. Like, if it was BB-8, L3, Bucket, Chopper, and K2, I mean, that's all you need. Like, put that squad together.
And R2.
Dude, and R2. Oh my God. Can you imagine if you had all of them together? That would be ridiculous.
My problem wasn't the droids in that. It was that, Gascon.
Gascon.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Steven Stanton won't live that down in my head.
Well, I don't know. He did a singing. What was the droid singing in?
That's true. Singing in space in Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah,
yes.
that was awesome.
Okay. Sometimes Star Wars lives up to its hippie roots, where people were smoking stuff when they were making this stuff. So, well, you remember because when in the Clone Wars, George Lucas was essentially doing what he wanted to do. So there was early on those 2 3PO R2 episodes that he did, and everybody was like, "Oh gosh, enough of the droids." We had two episodes, and then then he comes back a couple seasons later with 4 episodes of the droids, and by the end of the month, we're all like, ah! And George Lucas, he just did some type of talk with some of the actors from the Clone Wars, and then I know there were some other people that were there. I think it was at Skywalker Ranch or something, but they weren't pictures inside because there's no pictures of George Lucas. But I saw one person say that he said in that talk that his favorite episodes of the Clone Wars are the D Squad arc. And I was like,
gosh.
I was like, go to figure, because, I know some people like that arc, and I get it. There's the art they were trying to do in the background and all whatever, but it's just like, by the end of that arc, I was like, please just stick a fork in me. I am done. Can we get back to Ahsoka? Please.
Oh.
I'll never forget those. But that's part of being a Star Wars fan, is you're going to go with all of it. You're going to go with all of it. So... The BB-8 would have been like, if I had been on T-Squad arc and in charge, it wouldn't have been a problem.
It would have been awesome.
All right.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of this episode. But we want to know what you guys think. Do you think that droids are sentient or not? Very curious. Also, what's your opinion of BB-8, and what's his best tool that he has?
And what's your opinion of Star Wars Resistance, too?
Yeah, we do. We
What
want
did
to
you
know
think?
that too. And send us some emails. We love getting emails, as you can see. If we get some good emails, we'll read them on the show. So please, please, please send us emails. And you can send us emails to our email address that Trisha will tell you in a minute.
You can even send us emails and tell us you like D Squad Arc, and we'll read it on there.
Yeah, we will totally read that on the show for sure. But in between shows, you can visit us over at fangirlsgoingrogue.com for some great content like Sarah's coverage of the Star Wars Resistance press conference. You can find us on Twitter at FGGoingRogue. I am at Ice Cold Penguin. Trisha, oh my god, why can't I say our names, guys? I can't speak.
Your names are too similar.
They are pretty close. So Teresa is at Ice Cold Penguin. Trisha is at Fangirl Cantina. Sarah is at Jedi Tink, and Sandra is at Geek Chic 9. Have you guys ever noticed that we're 2 T's and 2 S's?
You can email us about the D Squad Arc or BB-8 Sentience, or the fact that L3 is going to take over the Millennium Falcon and has already. So, and send that email to contact@fangirlsgoingrogue.com. You can Facebook with us. We always discuss these things on our Facebook page, Fangirls Going Rogue. Just type that in. We'll pop up. And you can check out our Tumblr, fangirlsgoingrogue.tumblr.com.
You can also visit us on Instagram. We are at FGGoingRogue. And on Facebook, you can join our Facebook group. So once again, head to Facebook and search for Fangirls Going Rogue group, request to join, and then you better answer those questions that pop up, or we won't let you in and you can't talk to us about droid sentience. And you can also give us a voicemail. We are 331-21-EWOKS.
Here's the most important thing. We don't ask for money. We don't ask for anything. We don't ask you to retweet or anything else. We do ask that you leave us lovely 5-star reviews. So please go to Apple Podcasts and leave a positive 5-star review. We need your reviews so more people can find us.
So until next time, da-da-da-da-da, yub, yub.